Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today let's discuss patch preview 8.1. It is finally out. We're all excited. You're excited. If you're not excited, I don't know what you get excited for, but this update is huge. It's massive and it's coming with a lot of substantial updates. We got things to our endgame, itemization, elements of the user interface. They're polishing up areas that are already in the game, and they have some quality of life things coming, such as the tooltip DPS. Speaking of, in the user interface, you'll see this patch includes tooltip DPS, a phase 4 item from the early access forecast. And they're in the process of redesigning all skill tooltips as shown in the thread linked above. And if you haven't seen it, this is a look at the new tooltip display. You'll be able to see your damage per second. You'll have it all nicely formatted in more of a box shape. I think it's very clean, it's nice, it's easier to read, and just knowing your damage per second or being able to base the damage of the skill as you take nodes, as you put on gear, assuming all of that works correctly, is going to be super helpful. And then also your characters now wear their equipped gear on the character selection screen. This is another thing that I'm sure took a lot of time to get right, and especially as they're implementing more 2D and 3D models, especially for all the slots, it's going to look a lot better. I'm super excited for this because now I'll know if I actually have gear on the character that I am opening instead of having to log in, see it, be like, this isn't the character I wanted. Now I'll be able to spot where my Ensanguinuses are, I'll be able to spot where my Uniques are, just by looking at the characters as I scroll through them, because if you're like me and you've been playing for a while, you probably have a lot of characters by this point, and it's a nice quality of life thing to be able to now scroll through all of them and see what you're wearing. Moving on to items, they are introducing powerful new skill level raising affixes. Now this is a forum post that's been out for a little while, and if you haven't seen it, you can check it out as well. But basically it looks like the chess pieces are going to be able to give skill levels to all skills, or at least to some skills. The only hint we got in there was that you can get +2 to meteor, and that there was a unique weapon that came with a plus level to all void spells. Now whether you'll be able to compound these, whether they'll be for all types, in other words, we'll be able to get +2 to meteor and a +1 to fire, we've yet to know exactly the specifics about it. Either way, even being able to get 1 or 2 levels to some or all skills is going to be changing the way that you use skills. It's going to add power to them, it might change the way they behave, and it's definitely going to make them more viable. They go on to say that they are working on significant changes to defenses, although there's no specifics on that. I would assume that that might be big enough. It might even also get its own forum post, even though that's not mentioned here. But that does seem like something that's going to be a big, significant change to how we do defense on our characters. They've also reworked how affixes are distributed between prefix and suffix, and which items they roll on. Now, which items they roll on, that basically sounds like all of our crafted gear right now is going to completely change. And then how they're distributed between prefix and suffix is kind of a big one, because prefix is usually more offensive and suffixes are usually more defensive, although recently that's kind of changed. You have like your helm and your chest class specific things that have become more offensive, and then for your prefix you have like the set necrotic and poison and the set physical and void, which have become more of a defensive thing in the prefix. So it's kind of weird how they flip-flopped a little bit, but now it sounds like they're going to be distributed even more differently and reworked. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how affixes on gear are actually going to be crafted now, and how we are going to build characters. They've introduced new class-specific relics, which sounds awesome. I'm really hoping that these are going to be different than the chest and helm. Obviously they'll be class specific, but I'm hoping they roll with different affixes, you know, completely rare class specific things, and not just more of what you can already get on the helm and the chest. So you'll have like 3 different ways to build instead of just getting more of the same thing. Scepters and Shields now have new 2D and 3D art and new implicit properties. This one I'm really curious about. Scepters are one of those weapons like on Primalist that I've really enjoyed using, because they come with some physical melee attack and they usually have some adaptive spell damage. So I'm really curious what the new implicits on them will be and how those will dive into characters that use them. And of course, seeing new 2D and 3D art is always something fantastic to see, because having a visually beautiful character is awesome. They've also updated all unique items implemented before patch 7.7, which was dated around March of 2020. I have no idea how many uniques that is. I know that's probably more than 20, less than 100. I didn't look it up, but it's going to be awesome that we're going to have a huge amount of new, well, basically new, reworked, unique items that we can throw into builds. I'm assuming that most of them are going to be more low-level ones that have been updated to be more viable, because that's one of the things I've seen in feedback is a lot of people complaining that unique items are just not as good as they would like them to be. I am also assuming that they're going to have a lot more unique affixes to them. That's another thing that's been on feedback. So that's what I'll be assuming. It's going to be awesome. It's like going to be like getting a whole bunch of new uniques, and it's going to be a lot of them. So I expect a lot of builds to change. Just looking at all these itemization changes, it basically looks like we're going to have to completely re-gear and redo every character that we already have. It's going to feel like a brand new game. For skills, a new Spellblade skill, Surge, is being added, and if you guys haven't seen the forum post on Surge yet, it is a pretty detailed post. It's got quite a few nodes that are being teased about it, and Surge kind of reminds me of Shift for the Rogue. When I was playing Rogue, you know, and I was dashing around with Shift, one of the things that came to mind was, wow, I would love on Spellblade to have a skill like this. Not teleport, I would love a dashing skill that synergized with other things, that really made it feel more melee, because it just, Spellblade just has something about it that wasn't super enjoyable to play as a melee character. It's alright as a mid-range for me, but just the melee wasn't. I think this skill will turn it around, and it synergizes with a lot of things. You know, you can synergize it with static and static charges, get more lightning damage out of it. You can increase the amount of duration that you're actually surging by increasing the duration of it. You'll still move like the same distance, but according to the node, you can increase the duration so that you'll essentially just be surging for a longer period of time but going the same distance, and because of that you cast like lightning blast while traveling with it. Now maybe you can cast more lightning blast since you're in it for a longer period of time. You could be invulnerable for a longer amount of time since you're invulnerable while surging, and it just seems like it's going to have quite a few things that synergize quite well with it, as well as increasing your damage, and of course just having another movement skill is always nice. A new Beastmaster skill, Warcry, is being added. This is probably the most exciting skill that I want to try out, because I tell you what, Beastmaster is one of my favorite classes. I think it's very synergetic with itself. It's very well themed. I love the aspect buffs and being able to build into them, and to be able to build into more damage, into more crit, into more dots, into just more attack speed and melee damage. Like the fact that you have all these different aspects and buffs that you can build into, and you can get them either on hit or when you get hit, or if you do a hit, or just based on what your attack speed is, based on your companions using a skill. Like they have some really cool interactions, and I think Warcry is going to be something that can tie all that together. Now, what I hope Warcry is something that like increases your maximum HP, heals your HP, maybe for you and your companions, maybe gives offensive ability, but most importantly, I really hope that it gives some sort of damage reduction or resistance, or makes it to where the Beastmaster yourself is more survivable, because that's the one thing I hate, is it always feels like either I'm weak or the companions are weak. It never feels like together that we're both strong. We have a Mage skill, Fire Shields, being removed. We've seen this one, they've mentioned this several times. No surprise there. The Beastmaster skill, Flanking Strike, is being removed. Now obviously in its place Warcry is going to be there. I'm kind of disappointed. Flanking Strike actually looked like it would be a really fun skill to specialize into. You know, the interaction between you and your companion and being right there with them, I thought that was going to be a good one. It's kind of like Leap, and like having your companions leap with you, it's very synergetic with your companions. I was hoping Flanking Strike would take that to a new level. Sad to see that one go. Hopefully it makes a return somehow, but we never know. And then for the big one, we have revisited every skill in the game. Every skill in the game to better standardize our specialization trees. Older skills should now be appreciable, more viable, and challenging content. Okay guys, wow. First off, all of your gear has changed. You know, you got your specialization relic, you have affixes moving around and changing, you know, new, game changing, end game changing, adding levels to skill affixes, and now you're redoing, well, I won't say redoing, you revisited every skill in the game probably did some balance things, changed nodes around, maybe changed pathways, changed numbers, changed the way they interacted, changed synergies, maybe added some new nodes. That's huge. This is a whole new game. All new gear, all new gearing, new itemization, and all new skills. That's what makes up the entire game of Last Epoch. So the fact that that's all being redone and that the Endgame model with the Fade is going to have fresh content, this is basically going to feel like a whole new game. And I can tell you what, there's probably no one more excited than I am, except possibly Lizard. Lizard's probably going ecstatic right now. And then just to finish it up, they have some animation changes. All animations used by non-transformed Primalist have been replaced or improved. So the Primalist is going to look much better, which is great. It's good timing because I tell you what, with a new skill, a lot of people will be joining onto that Primalist. They also plan to improve Werebear form and Spriggan form animations in the future and exploring model improvements for these skills. Now what's funny about that is I literally actually just made a video not that long ago comparing the Werebear form that is quite old and was, very first implemented when the alpha came out for the Primalist and the Druid, and I was saying how it could look so much better, and it's obviously, we already knew it was something that they will improve in the future. It's nice to know that it might be closer than we first thought. Level design, they've performed a pass on many zones to improve their appearance. This is something they do with every patch. They're always making the game look much better. These updates were concentrated on Chapter 5 and Chapter 3, but they've touched up some other zones as well. Now, I'm excited to see those. They didn't give any screenshots, which is really weird. Usually, like last patch when they did Edera's Temple, they gave us some screenshots and they were beautiful. And I tell you, Edera's Temple, if you've played, you've gone through the first couple of chapters and you've gotten to Edera's Temple before the end of time, you've noticed that it is definitely much more beautiful than it was, and it's awesome. It just looks graphically very pleasing, and the graphics are starting to be top notch. Very excited now to go through Chapter 3 and Chapter 5 and hopefully to see some even better looking zones than that. And lastly, getting into the optimization. They have significantly optimized visual effects that appear around the character during your skill usage. While these are not the most significant contributors to poor performance, this is the first update to include work from a long-term project of theirs to dramatically improve combat performance in Last Epoch. We will be gradually rolling out these optimization work to additional areas of the game across future updates. So as we know, optimization is something that gets worked on every patch. It's always improving, and this patch is no exception. Optimize the performance of outlines applied to enemies and allies on mouse over. They should also now look better, and I'm not sure if this has to do with the flashing of enemies on hit. I think it's just on mouse over, so that might be a completely separate thing. I know that a lot of people are complaining that you can't turn the flash when you hit an enemy off, or it's bugged or something like that. Not sure if that's fixed, but again, optimization always being worked on, and this patch no exception. It's going to be even better and visually better now. And that wraps it up for the patch preview. And I tell you what, once again, I've said this like 3 times so far in this video, I am beyond excited. Definitely hoping that they give us at least a 24-hour heads up before they release it, but even if not, maybe I'll call in sick same day and join you guys in getting some videos up as quick as possible. There's going to be a lot of videos on this. We're talking about all new skills, we're talking about skill reworks, all new gear, gear reworks, class specific relics, lots of things to find. I didn't see anything about idols or any other sort of mechanic, so maybe we'll still have the same idols. Usually they slip in like a few new affixes for idols. Maybe we'll get those in the patch notes. But so far, super excited, and I hope you guys are as excited as I am. Until next time, be safe and have fun travels in Edera.